have said anything wrong, I was in no position to contradict you, having enjoyed only last night a sumptuous nihari at your place.
I never met him. I read his books a long time ago. And when I compare his writings and his solidity and his erudition, and his grasp and his patience, and I suppose his hermit-like work where he sits aside for a long time and writes his books, and I compare it with the work of my generation of lawyers, I feel so small as compared to Noorani sir. And it's truly a generational decline, where I and my colleagues who do human rights work and are very vocal, it's a generational decline where we've lost the capacity to write a mixture, a very profound mixture of politics and law and history. To write that in a solid way for generations to follow. So when Kurban said, "Will you speak?" I said yes automatically, and then realized what a blunder I had made, and tried to put together something of sense for the meeting today. I want to start with a very small quote from his book on Article 370. Few lines which I'll read out. Article 370 is not and cannot just be one-way stream. It has been brought into existence so as to invest the Constitution with requisite resilience in order to respond to ground situations warranting solutions, so that the relationship between the state and the union is placed on an even keel, in which aspirations of the people of the state would find satisfactory expression, in which the aspirations of the people of the state will find satisfactory expression. And today, after the pretty awful judgment of the Supreme Court on Article 370, and the way in which that judgment has been written, the lack of erudition in it, the lack of academic resolve and carefulness, I realize at least that there will be something in his passing that will remind us of what it is we do not have. When I read his books, I want to tell you about how important his writings are even today. Perhaps 20, 30 years later, how relevant they are to the issues in India today. He wrote on preventive detention with some vigor. And now we have, after many years, at last, after so many cases in Kashmir, where preventive detention cases last the whole term of 2 years without the court delivering judgment. So you file a case and you come out only because the court had no time to deal with detention cases. You have a judgment of the Supreme Court today, a slight turnaround, where the court says if you don't deal with the representation of the détenu, he must be released immediately. If you don't deal with it expeditiously, then forget the merits of detention, you must release him immediately. Extrajudicial executions he wrote on then, so relevant today. And you know the situation in Chhattisgarh in 2024, where 150 innocent tribals were extrajudicially executed by the Chhattisgarh police and the joint forces. No court is willing to look at it. Not even the Supreme Court, not even the High Court. The Judiciary today is not willing to listen to it. And we went to Chhattisgarh and recorded the testimony of about 80 tribal women whose children and husbands and others were executed by the police. As relevant today as he was then. The death penalty, on which he wrote extensively. India today is as far away from abolishing the death penalty as it was when Noorani Sahab wrote. Across the world abolished, but in India no chance. Not even the slightest chance as long as the government remains in power. And when you saw and read about the killings, not the killings, the demonstrations in Kolkata, and the call for a death penalty for rapists, and the bill drafted by the West Bengal government, calling for the death penalty, again and again and again, you realize time has stood still. Ghafoor Sahab would today be as relevant speaking in audiences as he was then. Under trials he wrote on, and jails across the country have a 200% overcrowding. 200% overcrowding, a topic on which he wrote extensively. Anti-conversion laws, again, something very relevant today, where the petition against the anti-conversion laws is lying in the Supreme Court for several years. And the court doesn't have the time. It has the time for commercial matters. It has the time for insolvency matters. It has the time for everything under the sun. But it won't take up the matter of anti-conversion laws, where people are put in jail because of the word used in anti-conversion laws, allurement. And for Christian that means, if you offer a person a place in a Christian school, or you give a person a chance to go to a Christian hospital and so on, that would come within the definition of allurement. Impunity, something on which he passionately wrote. And you know the latest case of the Nagaland army and the police in Nagaland, who killed a large number of people, mistaking them, so to speak, for being insurgents. Supreme Court took up the case, was told that there is no sanction for prosecution, sanction given by the same party who ordered the opening fire. Sanction is not given, sir, and the case is closed. The Supreme Court and its decline is something on which many things can be said, but maybe not today. Like the wrestlers case. Take it up today, insist with great gusto that an FIR be registered. The next day be told that the FIR is registered and the case is closed, without the accused being sent to jail. And in AFSPA, of course, he wrote quite a bit, not repealed, despite so many anguished calls from civil society for the repeat. Time really stands still. And I think Noorani Sahab, although he wrote many years ago, is as relevant today as he was then. And India doesn't become more civilized at all as the years pass, becomes more rapacious, more violent, and more uncivilized. And the killings go on and on. I'd like to read one little thing from his book on Article 370. The people of Kashmir, who having suffered for long under Mughal, Afghan, Sikh and Dogra occupation, rejoiced on Independence Day only to suffer betrayal by the tallest leaders of India and Pakistan, and their own leaders from Jawaharlal Nehru, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah down to this day. And to the memory of Jai Prakash Narayan, who spoke up for the people. His call for Sampurna Kranti, Jai Prakash Narayan's call for Sampurna Kranti, total revolution, if it were to be made today, the maker of that slogan or the maker of that call would be taken for sedition. people have gone to jail in this country in large numbers, including our friend Khalid, who is in jail for making a provocative speech. Jayaprakash Narayan, had he made the call today, would certainly have been in jail. I use that phrase, total revolution, very often in our rallies and speeches. But I preface it by saying that Jayaprakash Narayan said it many years ago, and we should resurrect the slogan today, total revolution. In remembering Ghafoor Sahab, I think we must remember that it is only a total revolution of the kind envisaged by Jayaprakash Narayan that will cleanse Indian society of the quagmire that we are in. Remember him with thanks and remember him with respect. Thank you all.